we interrupt your normal scheduled dose of Pathfinder stuff to bring you this very special announcement that Pathfinder 2nd Edition playtest is moving forward. There's a lot of exciting stuff going on, and a lot of big changes are coming to our favorite role-playing game. And some people are probably going to die along the way in Pathfinder's story, which is something I'm really excited for as a lore nerd, and I'll tell you about that in a second. Now, of course, at Black Dragon Gaming, we are all about Pathfinder, and though we do have a lot of series running right now that pertain strictly to Pathfinder 1st Edition, and those series will finish, and they will finish on schedule no matter what happens with 2nd Edition, we're going to be committed to bringing you guys all of your Pathfinder 2nd Edition information that you need. And with no further ado, let's get right to it because there's a lot to cut through. So I got home from work today, the 6th of March, my 27th birthday, to get probably the greatest of all birthday presents, the announcement of the launch of the playtest version of Pathfinder 2nd Edition, which is set to release on the 2nd of August this year. Between here and there, Paizo's going to give us in-depth looks at the game, previewing all 12, that's right, I said 12 classes. That means all of the core classes from Pathfinder will get rehashings for 2nd Edition, and the Alchemist is being made core, and his iconic, of all things it could be, is going to be a goblin, if this picture tells us anything, and I happen to think it speaks 1,000 words. And we're going to see most of the fundamental changes to the game. As of today, we have a brief overview of what's going to change. In addition, we've seen some announcements for official content that will come out for Pathfinder 2nd Edition, which, if you want in PDF form, will be scot-free. So hey, at this point, what do we have to lose? The first thing Paizo says is that they want Pathfinder 2nd Ed to feel just like Pathfinder 1st Ed, just like that game we love today. That means, and I quote, as a player, you need to be able to make the choices that allow you to build the character you want to play. Similarly, as a game master, you need to have the tools and the support to tell the story you want to tell. The rules that make up the game have to fundamentally still be the same, even if some mechanics behind them are different. What I am interpreting from this is we're going to take a step towards 5th edition, which kind of makes me feel a little nervous, because I really like Pathfinder for its customization and I'm not afraid of the crunch. But if the rules stay fundamentally the same, then I think I could learn to love it. One of the things that will be changing in Pathfinder 2nd Edition is character creation. Instead of choosing a race, in 2nd Ed, you start by selecting your ancestry, figuring out where you came from and what sorts of basic statistics you have. And to me, this feels like if you want to play the human who was raised by, I don't know, say dwarves, you don't necessarily have to roll up a custom race to make that fit. You can have the flavor of being a human, but have the dwarf ancestry slapped on top of it for the same statistical stuff that you would get from a dwarf. Of course, this is all entirely speculation, but I think that'd be really sweet. Next, you decide your background, which represents obviously how you were raised and what you did before you took up the mantle of adventurer. This will probably be a lot like the character themes from Starfinder, from Ace Pilot to Xenoseeker and all the way back again, which again allows our characters to be a little more than just the cookie cutter Ugg the Barbarian or Big Smarty the Wizard. Of course, we will still have classes, we will still have barbarians, clerics, and wizards, oh my. Each one of the 3 choices, ancestry, background, and class, will modify your starting ability scores, give you starting proficiencies and class skills, and it will also open up entire feat chains tailored to your character. So, for example, if you have elf ancestry, your background is something like, I don't know, blacksmith, and you are a fighter, you may have different things available to you than, say, the elf fighter whose background is farmer. After these big choices, you'll have smaller choices to make, like assigning skill proficiencies, picking an ancestry feat, which makes it sound to me like everyone has a bonus feat, and I'm okay with this, buying gear, and picking options presented by your class. 2nd edition will also have a unified system of proficiency bonus based on your character's level, not unlike how 5th edition does it. I am a little bit skeptical about that, but we'll take it with a grain of salt for now, and we'll see what comes with it. In addition to changing how the character in Pathfinder is created, the overall flow of play is being changed to add what Paizo is calling interesting choices in every part of the story. What this means is Paizo has broken play up into 3 distinct components. Encounter mode, obviously being in a fight with stuff. Exploration mode, which Paizo does note, rather than being measured in seconds, is measured in minutes and hours, which can mean anything from wandering through the forest or mingling at a royal party. To quote Paizo, Of all the modes of play, exploration is the most flexible, allowing for easy storytelling and a quick-moving narrative. And I will say, as a fan of initiative at all times, I am kind of interested in how the game is being broken up because it's not hard in what we would call exploration mode in Pathfinder today for one or two players or even half your table to lose interest as the guy in the party who has ranks in survival is moving us forward, or the guy who has diplomacy is actively talking to people while your big dumb fighter types are just kind of standing by the punch bowl. And if this brings everybody to the table during exploration time and sees to it that everyone has something to do, I'm all for it. By that same token, I do feel that things like exploration mode should be pretty freeform and we should be able to do whatever it is we want without rules. While we're wandering in the woods, we might only have 4 or 5 options mechanically for what it is we want to do, and that can really limit players. I won't spoil anything, but if you'd like to see it, it is over on the Inn of Planar Crossroads, somewhere near the middle-ish of the second book of the Dead Sun's adventure path in Starfinder. There's a scene kind of like this, where your character only has 3 or 4 options in a harrowing situation that's not, strictly speaking, combat oriented. And that wasn't as fun as it could have been because I felt like I was just spamming the one option that was strictly the best for me until I got to safety. But all Starfinder aside, the final mode of Pathfinder 2nd Edition will be called Downtime Mode. And again, to quote Paizo, the downtime mode happens when your characters are back in town or relative safety, allowing them to retrain abilities, practice a trade, lead an organization, craft items, and that's the big one for a lot of us, or recuperate from wounds. Downtime is measured in days, which allows that time to flow by in an instant, which is also cool, but I'm more worried about this, I think, than I am exploration mode because it's in downtime mode when you're not running through the dungeon, trying not to die, trying to make other things die, that we learn more about the character through what he does when he's not, actively trying to stay alive. Of course, this all seems to be something that Paizo has measured out, and the options do seem to be there, but it seems to me that this needs to be less very measured out and organized, so much as it is just spotlighting roleplay. I'm going to take it with a grain of salt. I'll definitely give it a chance. However, I definitely know some players, and this is why we stopped running initiative at all times in Lordly Caliber, that might balk at these things. Another change that will be coming to Pathfinder 2nd Edition that's not necessarily groundbreaking, but it's certainly interesting, is initiative will be tracked off of things like skill modifiers rather than an actual initiative score. Again, to quote Paizo, in a group of 4 exploring a dungeon, 2 characters might have their weapons ready, keeping an eye out for danger. Another might be skulking ahead, keeping to the shadows, while the 4th is looking for magic. If combat begins, the first 2 begin with their weapons drawn, ready for a fight, and they roll perception for their initiative, and this is again why this is the most important skill in Pathfinder. The skulking character rolls stealth for his initiative, giving them a chance to hide before the fight even begins. The final adventurer rolls perception for initiative, but also gains some insight as to whether or not there is magic in the room. Now, I know not everyone in the room is going to agree with me on this one, but initiative is super important, and it's another reason why I feel that in Pathfinder 1st Edition, dexterity is the uber stat. Dexterity will get you everywhere you need to go, but if I'm rolling essentially my wisdom modifier plus proficiency bonus to initiative, that changes a lot of things. This to me feels more like a house rule that got really popular, so popular that it's now become canon, but I'm okay with it. To make things even more interesting, the way combat works is getting flipped on its head as well. In Pathfinder 2nd Edition, the different types of actions are going to be gutted. That's right, you heard it here first. No more swift actions, no more immediate actions, no more full attack actions, no more questioning whether or not I can vital strike with this or cleave with that. Instead, every player gets 3 actions in any combination on their turn. Things like moving, attacking, or drawing a weapon will take just 1 action, which means that, and if I'm understanding this correctly, even at level 1, we can attack more than once in a single turn. Each attack after the first will obviously still take a penalty, but it's still more than 1 chance to hit, we'll take it. To quote Paizo some more, in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, most spells take 2 actions to cast, but there are some that take only 1. Magic Missile, for example, can be cast using from 1 to 3 actions, giving you an additional missile for each action you spend casting Magic Missile. This is exactly how Magic Missile works in Starfinder right now, and it's nice to see that move forward because that does feel pretty good. It gives you more options, it gives you more versatility, and it does smooth out combat while not smoothing it out so much as to I move, I attack, your turn. Pathfinder is obviously taking a lot of cues from 5e here, up to and including each character has one reaction they can take to interrupt other actions. This means things not unlike Attack of Opportunity. Different classes and different monsters will have a lot of different things they can do with their reactions. I will be sad to see combat reflexes go, because I love building the swashbuckler who runs around and parries everything, or the guy with the humongous threat range with a gigantic weapon who hits all the bad guys 10 times over the course of their turn and then takes his full attack, but it will certainly speed up combat to do this. Monsters are getting a lot of change in Pathfinder 2nd Edition as well. Paizo's moving away from the formulas and the hit dice put together in the big crunch to make a monster. Now, I really enjoy this crunch, but I understand a lot of players don't, and I understand it is very time consuming. Paizo is instead deciding on creatures' rough levels and roles in the game, and then choosing statistics that make it a balanced and appropriate part of the game at that level. They say that 2 7th level creatures might have different statistics which allow them to play very differently at the table, despite both being appropriate challenges for a 7th level party. This means that monsters will be less number crunch and more actions that seem flavorful and appropriate. Paizo does note that a Tyrannosaurus Rex can now take an action once it has you in its jaws to fling you 20 feet through the air, and they go on to say that hazards will now be more important in the game. Things like poisons, curses, and diseases are a far more serious problem to deal with, which I am super interested in because I love playing the woodsy types that might set traps, but traps never really hold up compared to magical stuff. Speaking of magic, magic items are going to be gutted as well. Again, to quote Paizo, "First and foremost, we have taken significant steps to allow characters to carry the items they want instead of the items they feel they must have to succeed. Good armor and a powerful weapon are still critical to the game, but you no longer have to carry a host of other smaller trinkets to boost up your saving throws or ability scores. Instead, you find and make magic items that grant you cool new things to do during play, giving you the edge against all the monsters intent on making you into their next meal. In layman's terms, what this means is the big six is no longer necessary to survive. We no longer have to prioritize the Cloak of Resistance, the Ring of Protection, the Belt of Physical Perfection, etc., 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 to stay relevant in late game play, and we, the players, can instead buy whatever it is we want with our gold for more customization and stuff without worrying about being terrible in the late game and, just dying horribly. Of course, I'm sure there will still be some kind of big six group of items in this game, because that's the nature of having magic items. Some will always be stronger than others, but if I don't necessarily have to reach a certain level of gold to buy a certain level of items to make sure I don't die, or even better, not have to freak out when I don't feel like I get enough of a share of gold in a certain party, or if we're just way under wealth by level, then I, and really all of us, because many of us are guilty of this, can spend more time focusing on the actual adventure and having fun. Crazy thought, I guess, which is what we're all sitting down at the table for anyway, right? I'm down. Like I said, this release is on the 2nd of August of this year. Not only will we be getting a playtest core rulebook, we will also be getting a playtest adventure, not a playtest adventure path, no, an entire 1 to 20 adventure. These will both be free downloads exclusively at Paizo, but there are options to order softcover and hardcover versions if that's your thing. The adventure that's coming out is super relevant to Galerion's story. This year, 4718, marks the return of the Dominion of the Black. We will probably cover them more, and we will be covering all the classes and stuff as that information is released. I'm not going to cover a whole lot right now, but I will say that the Pathfinder playtest adventure, Doomsday Dawn, does cover these events this year when the adventure paths were released and we didn't see anything about the Dominion of the Black. I was a very, very, very sad nerd because I was really excited for these events. Now we have them, and we have them in a brand new system. I could not be more excited. Seriously, I'm fangirling really hard right now, and I have been since like 2 hours ago when I figured out that this was a thing. Doomsday Dawn will span all 20 levels and will feature most of the game's newest rules. But more importantly, the Dominion of the Black is returning to Galerion. If you are not familiar with the Dominion of the Black, take this time now, go look them up. Read what you can about them, because they're coming for you. I could not be more excited. Now, like I was, I'm sure you have a bajillion questions, and I will throw a link to the Pathfinder playtest in the description. But to touch on some of the questions I'm sure you have really quickly, archetypes and multi-classing will still be a thing, and so too will be customization, that thing that makes Pathfinder what Pathfinder is. In addition, the game will still take place on Golarion, but it will be a Golarion influenced by what happens in the adventure paths. Again, not to spoil anything here, but you might see different rulers in different places, different nations cut out in different parts of the world. You get the idea. Still Golarion, and thus there will still be the Inner Sea Region of 5-Minute Tour on this channel, and in addition there may be an Inner Sea Region of 5-Minute Tour Part 2 to cover all this as it comes out. If there's anything about it in the playtest core rulebook, you can expect to see it here first. One final time, in case you didn't catch it amidst my fangirling, and I understand if you didn't, though we are moving to the second edition of Pathfinder, I realize there are a lot of video series that are about halfway-ish done. For the first edition of Pathfinder, you have my solemn word here and now, 6:40 p.m., March 6th, 2018, my 27th birthday. In addition to second edition coverage on this channel, those series will finish. They will finish strong. I won't just rush them out because suddenly I have a more full workload with second edition. We started them, we're going to finish them. But again, as second edition information comes out, we'll have it right here on Black Dragon Gaming. So sit tight and stay tuned because it's certainly going to be a wild ride. How do you guys feel about this? Am I fangirling too much about the Dominion of the Black? I don't think I am, personally. Seriously, look at that art. That is super sweet. I am so excited. Let me know what you're thinking about this in the comments below, because seriously, my head's about to explode with all this information, and I need to get it to somebody. As always, be sure to like and subscribe for more videos, and we'll see you next time.